Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Partner Chronicles, powered to you by Zoho One. We are here in Melbourne today, and we are joined by Kylie Harker from SQiBLE Business Solutions. Let's have a wonderful conversation with Kylie, get to know about her and her business. Welcome, Kylie.
Thank you, Sangeeta. It's great to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's sunny in Melbourne, which is unusual at this time of year, so I'm happy.
We are also enjoying the weather very much. For the audience here, tell us a little bit about yourself and your wonderful business.
Sure. So I started SQiBLE about 11 years ago now. The team's grown from being just myself and one or two contractors to now being 13 people strong, which is pretty amazing given I don't have any kind of IT background at all. My brother teases me endlessly. He has 2 degrees in IT related things.
That's a sibling's job.
Yes, yes, you did right. So he often will call me and be like, "Hey, I don't know how it is that you are running this, software business." So, I definitely don't come from a technical background. So I've got a lot of clever squirrels that work for me.
That's very well put. Yeah. Taking from there, tell me a little bit about how did you land on the name of your business?
Sure, everybody asks me this. When I first started SQiBLE, I was trying to think of a name that was a little bit interesting. I feel like IT can be a little dry or bland at times.
Agreed.
So I actually had a cafe prior to, it was one of the things that I had, and it was called SQiBLE. And I was thinking about squirrels, and they actually collect all their nuts and hide them away for later. And have a little roadmap in their mind as to where they are. And I felt like CRM, that's what it does for businesses. You are gathering information from all these different places and storing it away for later. So that's where it got to. And we're known very much as the squirrels. You need to talk to this squirrel for that, or this squirrel for the other thing. So
that's very quirky and very interesting. Having had a conversation with you the past few days, I realize you are a power user of CRM. Tell me a little bit about how you started with CRM, how you started helping businesses, and what does the tool mean to you really?
We started using CRM, obviously, to run our own business and manage leads and inquiries and what have you. In terms of growing into that, I think we're very much, clients come to us with problems. And so we've found that the CRM itself is so flexible in terms of being able to customize it and use it for various different processes within a business. So I think we've just learned to make it do things that maybe it wasn't intended to, but that it's really good at. So that's kind of been our journey. We're definitely a power user of CRM, but also that, broader suite of Zoho tools has just been amazing to watch that grow. And the way that the platform's now being unified is also really exciting.
Your business is more concentrated in Australia, but I do hear you have users globally. What kind of verticals or industries do they come from? What are the specific integrations or something really interesting you've done with them? Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we, you're right. We've got about 200 customers, and the majority of them are in Australia. The verticals are kind of manufacturing, automotive. We do quite a lot with not-for-profits, and then a bunch with professional services.
Yeah.
The expansion globally into the UK and the US is really focused on, we have a tool that we have built, or an application called SQConnect that connects Zoho CRM with another software application called PrintIQ. So it's a MIS solution for businesses in the print industry, so large digital format printing, think conferences, event stands, merchandise at retail stores, that type of print. So we've partnered quite heavily with Print IQ, and they have been introducing us to their clients globally in the UK and the US, which has been exciting, to learn how business works in other countries. Yeah.
Where does the passion for your business come from?
Oh, it's problem solving. That's really what it's about. We love doing, I don't know, listening to a business owner come to us and be like, I've got this specific problem, or I know that I could be doing this part of my business better. I understand that there's better tools out there for us to be more efficient, to be using AI, to be using integration. So they typically come to us with, I think, knowing that they want to use Zoho. They've done their own research. I mean, the internet's amazing, right? Business owners can definitely do that now. But then they may trial the software and then try to do some implementation themselves, but then soon realize that, that whole 10,000 hours thing, about being an expert in something, they do tend to then come and say, hey, we've done what we can do. We really need you guys to take us to the next level.
So when it comes to implementing a software like Zoho One, which is very broad and deep, is there a difference in the approach of implementation you take when it comes to, let's say, a smaller business or a mid-market? What kind of hand-holding do they need? Are there significant differences in the approach you take for implementing Zoho One for them?
I don't think there's an enormous difference in between our process for doing implementation, regardless of the size of the business. We like to do discovery to just understand what the pain points are now across the business. So that might mean in a smaller business, you're talking to only one or two people that are across a whole range of business process, versus a mid-market where you will be talking to the individual departments and getting their input on what they need. In terms of what we do then, we're very much about understanding, so how do you do it now? And then drawing on our expertise to understand how it could be done better in future, and not trying to make the customer's process fit into how the system wants you to do it, because it doesn't need to, right? Like, Zoho's so flexible. So we're very much about learning what their process is, making recommendations about how it might be done better, and what applications in the Zoho suite that we would use to do that, along with identifying integrations into external software like finance, Zero Mile, etc., that they might be quite embedded in what they do. So we definitely recommend a phased approach. There's always a lot of excitement at the start of a project from people are, like, oh, right, they can see the future and want to just be, getting on with everything. But our recommendation is that you just start with these, some low-hanging fruit, I guess, or pick something that's really problematic and get that solved, and then move into these other pieces.
I'm so glad you said that software should fit the business requirements and not the other way around, which was going to be my follow-up question. Like, what do you prefer? Should a software be flexible enough to fit the business processes, or should the business be flexible enough to fit to what the software offers, which I think you've answered?
Definitely the former, definitely the former. I think one of the challenges and that a partner can really help a business with is, particularly with Zoho, because it is so flexible and there's so many applications in that Zoho One suite, there's often multiple ways to do the same thing, and there's often different apps that will achieve the same thing. So we definitely draw on our experience of implementing in multiple ways to decide and help guide what the client should do in for their particular use case.
Like, for example, something like timesheet management could be done through Zoho Projects as well as Zoho People. So
Okay.
I think the expertise of a partner, that is where you need the expertise of a partner, depending on what kind of a business process you are trying to solve, or what kind of a business problem you're trying to solve, and what other products in the Zoho ecosystem you are using. You will either use the Zoho projects model for timesheet management, or the Zoho people. If you're not in the HRMS ecosystem, then you wouldn't probably need to use the Zoho people module for timesheet management. Thank you for that, Kylie.
Yeah.
What kind of an approach to implementation do you prefer when it comes to your customers? Let's say, do you prefer customers being completely hands-on along with you in the journey of the implementation that you and your team does? Is that more of an ideal case, or something, let's say, okay, we've told you these are our areas of improvement and we are hands-off, we trust you with the entire process, you get this done and let us know. What kind of an approach is your style of working?
We're quite collaborative with the
Yeah.
client. We always say right at the start that we really want the client to be quite self-sufficient
Yeah.
by the end of the process of
Yeah.
working with us, so that they're not having to come back to us for a pick list change, or to create a new field, or to build new reports, or to change an email template.
Yeah.
If you do the implementation quite collaboratively and bring along the right people along the process with you, I think that just happens. Clients often say to us at the start of the project, "So is there training?"
Yeah.
Because everybody always complains that there's not enough training.
Yeah.
Training is one thing, but actually working in the system is another, and I think that takes a lot of time. So you do need. An example of doing that would be, we might build out some initial email templates, but then we might put together a short video that shows the client how to go in and edit those, do their merge fields, make small changes, and then we task somebody within the business to go in and do the rest of them, so that they're learning and doing.
So the way you look into training is by empowering them to become more independent with the software that you have helped them implement. So
absolutely, yeah. And I know a lot of our clients really love the short videos that we do. So they're not just on features within the system, but they're very much talking to their process within the system, so they can be used as a resource, as new team members come on board. And I've loved having Zoho Learn brought into that mix, because we actually tend to build out that resource center within Zoho Learn for clients too.
In your business, do you have a different strategy for sales and marketing? Or differently put, what kind of a difference do you see in sales and marketing? Is there any?
For generating our own inquiry? Yeah, sure. It's a good question. And this is always something that, other partners talk about too, or other business owners generally. For us, what has worked very well is our case studies on our website. So it's hard sometimes when you meet a client for the first time. Everybody says that they can do the thing and do the implementation. What we've found is having case studies that actually clearly explain what the problems were and how we solved them, and then again sharing some of those short videos that show a solution, actually really helps the potential client to understand what's possible and be able to visualize. It might not be exactly their problem. They're like, well, we've got that problem, but ours is slightly different. So I've found that to be really, really helpful, actually. We also demo quite a lot in our own CRM. Obviously, we use Zoho to run our business, and we use Desk, we use Campaigns, we use Forms, we use about 15 of the apps, honestly. So we do use our system to demo quite a lot. There's data then in the system. There's business process happening that you can actually demonstrate. So I think being able to showcase your solution and your ability to solve a problem is actually really important.
So in a way, you don't just talk about the features that the product has, you show them that this is how
100%.
this
You
is
really
how.
have to.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
Yeah. I think it's something that even internally in Zoho, we do. Zoho runs on Zoho. We always say that. So our CEO is very motivated by the fact that if a business like ours cannot run on our products, how do you expect other business owners to run their business on our products?
Absolutely.
So that is something I think we take very seriously.
Yeah, and look, I don't think we shy away either from saying if, you know, that a product isn't going to be able to do this thing particularly well or as yet, because Zoho does also seem to be constantly improving and there's new things all the time, but we don't shy away from saying that. Hey, guys, you might need a bit of a workaround for this. This is what we would suggest. It's probably going to change in the future. That's what software does. So you also need to go on that journey.
It evolves. Yeah. Quite a few partners have mentioned the importance of saying no, especially when it comes to a product like Zoho One. Most of the time they mention customers are like kids in a candy store. They want to try out everything. And the important thing and the role of the partner comes in wherein they come in and they balance it out for you. Okay, let's start with more of a snowball effect. Let's start small. Once you start rolling, you can gather more and more momentum and you can gather more and more, adopt more and more applications. And I think that's the best approach to a product like Zoho One. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. The other thing too is that, that whole kid in a candy store thing, you can end up making yourself quite sick. So, managing the change management process within a business is actually really important. We get asked that as part of, part of our proposal or qualification process is how are you going to help us do that? And usually it is by saying no or saying, hey, that's a great idea. Can we park it and just get this piece done first, get everybody on board and then move on to the next thing, which is hard to say because we're excited too.
It is. No is always hard to say.
Yeah.
So ideally, I have seen two approaches to approach an implementation by different people. So either they begin with, in order to gain trust, if it's a first time customer who's not used to the Zoho ecosystem, in order to gain trust, they would start with small wins. They would solve smaller processes, which gives the customer the confidence that yes, this works. This is worth my time, my money, and value all in all. And then there is a different approach which a few partners take, like they solve the most crucial problem, though it might take time because I guess core problems often do. They solve the core problem first, and the trust that they gain from the customer then is not only long lasting, but I think much deeper.
It's deeper.
Yeah. So which approach is your style?
I would say we tend to solve the bigger problem first because people, that's where they might come to us with a few little problems, but by delving deeper and asking questions, the larger things come out that actually need to be solved. So we tend to just go for the hardest thing first and win trust there. And you're right, it might take a little longer. It actually also helps us get deeper into the business right from the start. And sometimes when you solve that bigger problem, a ton of little things just fall away. So
that's a wonderful way of. So you solve a core problem, and a lot of things that were creeping up because of that tend to sort itself out.
For sure. Yeah.
So what does the future of SQiBLE looks like?
We are on a growth trajectory at the moment.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I have built a business around Zoho. As I said before, we've got about 13 people in our team that rely on SQiBLE to, put bread on the table and all those things and to provide learning and career opportunities. And it's always been really important to me that the people that I bring on board have actually got a career pathway, which is not easy in a small business, as you well, you maybe don't know, being working for such a big business where there's probably lots of opportunities, but I'm actually merging with another IT business to offer that. Really, we're bringing together two teams, so we'll be almost double the size. There'll be new technology and the chance to really cross educate the teams about different software, and I'm really excited.
You're looking forward to that?
I am. It's a lot of work, as you can imagine, bringing two completely different teams together, but our values are very aligned, so it's going to be fun. A new name, which is going to take a little bit of getting used to, but we're kind of blending the two, the squirrel and the brain, together.
Okay, that sounds really exciting. All the best for that, Kylie.
Thank you.
How has your journey as a Zoho partner been? Has it changed you or impacted you in certain ways as a business owner?
Yeah, it has. I feel like we are a small business communicating out to a much larger business that has got lots of different departments and specialties, product managers and what have you. I feel like Zoho's always been very supportive of the partners. I think that's even more significantly improved, to be honest, in the last couple of years. We've got local account managers here that will support us on bigger accounts, that will problem solve and bridge the gap sometimes that goes on between what we know the client wants and maybe what the software can deliver. So that's been really helpful. How else has it changed me? I don't know. I think it's partnership is really, I think, I've seen, we've partnered, as I mentioned earlier, with Print IQ. We've partnered with Zoho. I think together we're always stronger if there's, some mutual understanding and support along the way, which we definitely get from you guys.
That's wonderful. We were having a chat before and you were mentioning you work a lot with the manufacturing industry also. And manufacturing sector is notorious for having a lot of processes. Would you like to throw some light on, let's say, maybe pick one implementation story right at the top of your head to just educate our listeners here about how you go about a typical manufacturing industry implementation and what pieces might be missing, let's say, in the Zoho One puzzle? What do you use alternatively and how do you go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. A client that jumps to mind is Redfern Flynn. So they were using Zoho, and again, they were somebody that had started the implementation journey themselves and then came to us for to take it to the next level and to bring ideas that they had to life. So we customized the CRM to manage their assets within there, and then we used Zoho Creator to build out essentially an asset maintenance solution.
Okay.
So they've got technicians that go out and have got very specific checklists and information that's pushed and shown to them about the previous maintenance schedule. They can update that. It pushes back into the CRM. It generates reports that are emailed directly out to the customers who they're maintaining these assets for. So I guess we used Creator to do that, which is, again, really customizable and allows other people, other than people that are just using the CRM, to interact with it and gather data. I don't think we mapped out their processes and what they needed and what the problems were. As you say, with manufacturing, it is complicated because there's lots of moving parts and you've got to consider conditional rules and business rules and what have you in that implementation. But it's mostly just getting all the information and then sorting through it. So coming up with a plan.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Let me gather my thoughts for a second. Okay. Nearing towards the end of our conversation here, but tell me something that stands out in your head as the most interesting business problem that you've solved? Doesn't have to be any specific product or anything, just something that stands out in your head, that this was something that we found very challenging at the beginning, but found it very satisfied when we finished that implementation or solved that problem. Piece of a puzzle.
Wow. I would say it's probably an automotive client. They have a lot of other external systems that they needed to integrate into the CRM or push information out to. So they sell cars, and so they've got leads coming in from multiple industry, carsales.com, all of those places, and other lead generation tools. So we needed a way of making sure that data came in a unified way. And it's high volume, so we needed tools within the CRM that made it so easy for the sales team to want to be in there, because we know salespeople don't like to work in a system generally. So we've built a bunch of just very simple interactive tools within the system, allow them to track exactly where all of their deals are up to, make notes easily. There's SMS in there that is sending out alerts to the people that they're buying cars from. The other challenge that they had was they needed to push information out to, I guess, portals. So again, it was, how do we get that information out? How do we get images out? How do we update it very quickly? There was a lot of moving parts, and it's evolved over time quite a lot. So it wasn't my job, so I don't know the intricate details, but the user uptake in that system, like the sales team live in there. They rely on it. They don't have any, there's no pushback around using it. The reporting that's coming out of it is amazing. So really insightful for the business owner to be able to manage things, and the national sales manager. It's been it was an exciting project that's just evolved over time and continues to, because there's always new things in business.
I think every implementation is a continuous story, I guess.
It sure is, for sure.
Thank you, Kylie. I hope I did not put you through the ringer through the conversation, but it has been a splendid conversation. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners out there? We could just wind it up. It's okay.
No. Look, I think the final thoughts are, be curious when you're going out and looking for systems, but also understand that you probably are going to need support from somebody that's done it before to help with that implementation, so that it doesn't take a year. You want to kind of get some quick wins. So that would be my advice, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, all of you out there. That's it for today. Thank you for sticking by with us till the end. Until next time. Bye-bye.